Tec Sounds presents EduTrends.
Welcome to the EduTrends podcast and webcast brought to you by the Institute for the Future of Education of Tecnológico de Monterrey. I am your host, José Pepe Escamilla, IFE Director, Associate Director. Today's guest is Gonzalo Baroni Boces, National Director of Education in Uruguay. It's a pleasure having you on our show, Gonzalo.
Many thanks for the invitation. Thank you, Jose. Thank you, Tec de Monterrey and the Institute for the Future of Education for giving me the possibility to share our experience in Uruguay.
Thanks to you. I'm happy that we're here, Gonzalo, after the projects that we have been doing together and the visits of our people in Uruguay and your visit in last January in the IFE conference that we have in January 2023. I would like to be talking with you today about the adaptation of educational systems to the pandemic disruption. And I would like to start with the first question. How did the educational system in Uruguay adapted for the pandemic disruption and then recover from it?
Well, Uruguay is a special case in Latin America, but I think worldwide, because Uruguay had 15 years ago started a project, a plan under the OLPC, One Laptop Per Child project, when every kid, every child inside the system received a computer, received a laptop. After that, the Ceibal is called that project, Plan Ceibal. In that moment, nowadays, is an agency, a national agency. Ceibal is not only giving to the kids a computer, a laptop, but plus giving to the teachers development, training process, and giving infrastructure to the whole country. That's why Uruguay is a special case, because after having our first COVID case in Uruguay, we closed all schools. We were the first South American country closing all the schools, but we were the first South American country, and I think one of the first in the world that reopened schools. That's why for us was a challenge, but a particularly successful challenge, and a successful case, because we started with the schools in a progressive way. We start firstly primary schools, then secondary schools, but starting with the vulnerable schools, in the vulnerable areas, and most of the success was supported by laptops. Every kid, every student, every teacher with their own laptop in their own houses, and being in contact with the whole educational community.
Thank you. Very interesting, because that's one infrastructure is one of the main pain points in countries in Latin America, and you were prepared for that. I understand that there were also access to internet for all students from K-12 to higher education. But what were the other things that you had to develop during the pandemic in order to face this challenge?
I think the most important challenge was the public opinion, because we were discussing with the public opinion, families, unions, and the whole system about the importance of returning to schools, but preparing teachers for teach with a computer, teach digitally, not in the same way, but particularly in a new way. Most of the public opinion was like convinced that that with a computer and an internet connection, it is enough, and that's it. But by the end, the data, statistics, and the kids and the families were the support that with Uruguay needed, not only the infrastructure, not only the teacher training process, but also the community engagement and the community preparation of the process with different short courses, with supporting teachers by the authorities, and supporting families by the public authorities.
And with you were better prepared than other countries in Latin America, and we know that these disruptions will tend to be more common because we can weigh other disruptions, not only because of the pandemic, but also natural disasters that can come from climate change, etc., migrations in different areas in Latin America. Some countries are prone to other kind of natural disasters like earthquakes, etc. So university educational systems have to be designed to be more resilient. What will be your recommendation for to make educational systems more resilient to this kind of disruptions?
Well, when I was in Tec de Monterrey at the IFE conference, we were asked about how the system can be resilient in a disruption process or in future disruption. And for me, and Uruguay is heading a deep reform, a deep transformation in the whole system: primary school, secondary school, higher education. And we know that students are at the center of the process, at the center of the system, but teachers are the key actors there, because teachers are the front line in contact with families, in contact with the whole society. They are representing our values, they are representing our resilient process. Teachers that they can adapt the contents, they can adapt the abilities, they can adapt the way that they are teaching their classes are key. It's a key process to continue with resilient systems and resilient, how can I say, educational system, not for the future, for the present, because every day in every part of the world is happening some kind of disruption. Disruption not only by COVID, but earthquakes, by flooding, by wars. Particularly, there is a process, and there are many NGOs, civil society, fighting against the dropout rates, but fighting against families without sending their kids to the school. For example, in Ukraine, for example, in Africa, for example, in many, many countries that they are having different difficulties. That's why, in some, I think, the teacher training process and having teachers, resilient teachers, updated, and teachers with a vocational view of their professional abilities is really important for us.
Yes, I completely agree with you that teachers, professors are key factor. I also have an anecdote about that. When I was the dean of the Graduate School of Education a few years ago, we have a lot of students in online master's degrees at a distance. At what moment we have 4,000 students making the full program at a distance. And I remember that one semester, we started the semester with a new version of the LMS, and we had like 6-7 weeks without an outreach. No, we didn't have the LMS. The LMS was not working. And so professors switched to Word documents, email, whatever technology was available at that time. No, the internet was not on the phones at that moment. It was a few years ago. And at the end of the semester, there's this teacher evaluation survey that the students do. and we expected that they will evaluate not the teachers, but the school or the program bad, no, because they will say because of the outrage. We had exactly the same evaluations than in the previous semesters because the professors were so good to cope with the disruption. They knew what to do. They knew how to give an experience of value for them with other means, emails, etc. That we see no problem there. So the key component of the system is the professor. No, it's always the professor. You can have very good technology, you can have all the things, but at the end, it's very good to have a good professor. So my question for you here is how you develop these resilient abilities in professors, because I believe it's not only knowledge, it's also some like a attitudinal approach to face these kind of things.
As you said in that anecdote, you have the resilience system, or you had a resilient system because they used to teach with an LMS, or they used to teach in a digital way. But most of the universities, most of the higher education system failed because kids were at home and people were like studying, teaching all together, and teachers weren't able to have a safe space to be teachers. They were at their homes, like giving a speech or giving or being part of a module, but in their homes, like cooking, nurturing, and having their phones, their kids, everything all together. That's why having professional teachers, and as you said, with some attitudinal and vocational things, they change. Nowadays, we are changing our teacher training process, and we are switching a little bit the focus, not only in content, but more in competencies, like having administrative, for example, administrative skills, leadership skills, different languages. I mean, for example, for Uruguay, it's really important Portuguese, it's important English, it's important a second and even a third language to be in contact with the academy, not with university, with the last research, with the knowledge in this day updated. Most of the teachers have the problem with not being updated with content, but not being updated with the skills like social skills. For example, being in front of a classroom and there after having classes, you ask for to the student, what about this professor? What about this teacher? No, the speech was okay, the content was okay, but he or she didn't know my name. He or she didn't support me when I was I don't know, happy or sad, or I was angry. You need teachers with some engagement with students, teachers with some we call soft skills, teachers with that they are capable to administrate a school, but also administrate a classroom, and administrate for example, a conflict with unions, a conflict with families, a conflict in disadvantaged schools. We have in higher education systems and in typical school in my country, we have everyday challenges with families, everyday challenges with disruptions in their homes, disruptions, economic disruptions, social disruptions, gender disruption. That's why I think we need to think in a whole way, more soft skills, more global skills, more digital skills, and more administrative skills all together, not only with the content. it's as important knowing about economy, knowing about history, knowing about artificial intelligence, but also it's really important to have soft skills, treating with families, treating with students, treating with colleagues, treating with unions, and treating with, for example, budgets. Something that in many schools and many universities fails every day.
Yes, very interesting approach to develop those resilient skills through soft skills, and also those things that will make us more resilient and understanding how to cope with change, with uncertainty. There's one of the projects that we have, one of the research groups that we have here is working on complex thinking. That is the mixture of critical thinking, scientific thinking, systemic thinking, and creative thinking. Also, all those different competencies help you to cope with uncertainty. For instance, so I believe it's a very good approach. Congratulations for that approach that you're doing in your new teacher training programs in Uruguay. Mm-hmm. So we have seen in after the pandemic some different versions, no, so of the future. So we construct the future with the decisions we make, and I have seen some, particularly universities, some universities that are deciding to change what they do after the pandemic. They are not going back to what they have before the pandemic. They are changing their programs, investing in online learning, etc. And I also have seen other universities that said, I'm going to cancel the contract that I have with the LMS provider because the pandemic is over. Also, we are coming back to everything is online. I believe that in Latin America, there are many opportunities for online learning. What do you think are the not only the infrastructure barriers, but also I would say the cultural or mental barriers in LATAM to achieve a more accessible, to have more access to education through technology?
I think the first barrier or the first challenge in this new era is that in Latin America we are a little bit conservatives about the higher education process, and being a doctor or a medic or a lawyer or an accountant or an engineer is more important than having, for example, a certificate, an online course with updated abilities that you have with a course. For example, I'm in Uruguay and I'm studying in Tec de Monterrey with an online certificate. And why an online certificate? Why not studying for being a lawyer or studying for being, an engineer, or being, having a degree in communication, something the well-known degrees. And I think the first barrier, as you say, is cultural. The people in Latin America think that having a traditional degree is more important than having a useful degree, or not even a degree, a certificate. And Latin America and Uruguay, we are hitting a cultural shock, a cultural process changing after pandemic that we need to have every day. We need to be updated in many areas, being connected and working in community. I think most of us, we have Latin America, we have this communitarian kind of society, but a lonely process in the professional pathway. Like you are an engineer, you're a lawyer, or even you're a professor at university, and in general you work alone, and you don't have trust in the other. You think that you have a barrier there, and you have a competitor there instead of have a collaborative colleague there to help you. That's why I think the first barrier is cultural. The second barrier is the professional system, the professional and the how can I say that the working areas and the companies in Latin America are not helping us to be more collaborative and to push new barriers or new frontier for knowledge, new frontier for collaboration, new frontier for development, and new frontier for new technology. That's why I think we are really, really, really conservative in many ways.
So I agree with you that collaboration is a big issue. No? So during the pandemic, we saw that many people were trying to network and connect to learn from the experience of other people. I saw some consortia that were almost dying or dead that come out from the dead and continue to collaborate and start to do things to learn from each other. But that momentum has faded away, I think, now that we are out of the pandemic. How do you think we can improve collaboration in educational systems in Latin America? And what are you doing to improve that collaboration? I think this could be a question to close our talk.
But most of the higher education system in Uruguay is changing nowadays with different reforms. Universities are changing their programs, their degrees, their masters, their PhD. Most of them heading to a more link to the professional world. Not only with universities, not only with the academician, but more with the day-to-day jobs, because people have, after pandemic, I think, in a more short-term vision about their lives. Like why I'm learning about this, and I cannot use this for earning more money or helping my family to grow. I don't know. I don't know. And there is many people changing inside the universities between programs and outside universities, switching to short courses, certificate, but in a minimal way. And Uruguay is changing in universities, but it's changing also in, as I said, in the whole educational system, having students and having future professionals with different abilities. We call it the 21st century abilities. Like, as I said, the soft skills, social skills, working in collaboration with many people, working different languages, working with IT, working with programming, for example, something that for us nowadays is basic. Maybe when you, Jose, and me, we went to university, programming was like something there and something for engineers or something for programming people. But nowadays, most of the different degrees have programming. Programming for what? For searching data, for searching different programs, to elaborate, to collaborate with different people, being connected with different people, using LMS or using different platforms to collaborate with people in your university or in the whole region or in the whole world. That's why I think we are changing programs, we are changing culture, but we have many barriers to front and to help us to have a better world, but a better country, and not only for Uruguay. If Uruguay is going okay, fine, but we need Argentina, we need Mexico, we need Brazil, we need all together pushing to have a better Latin America connected. Latin America is too far from everyone. We speak Spanish, we speak all together in Spanish. In general, we are not using English, we are not connected with IT, we are like really associated with farming, with crops, and that's it. And maybe to the primary sector, not with science, not with technology, not with STEM, as I said. That's why we need to switch our vision to a more connected world, a more engaged world, and a more digital world, I think.
Thank you, Gonzalo. We have great challenges in front of us. I thank you for sharing your views on how to make educational systems more resilient and more collaborative also for the benefit of everyone. I have enjoyed this talk and I am sure that our audience of the Institute for the Future of Education will enjoy it too. Thank you very much once again, Gonzalo.
Thank you, Pepe, all the team, and I'm here for any discussion, connection, and being in contact with all of you. Thank you very much.
See you soon in Uruguay or here in Monterrey.
I hope so.
For more information, visit observatory.tech.mx/EduTrends podcast and ife.tech.mx. A special thanks to Tecnológico de Monterrey, the Institute for the Future of Education, and the Tec Sounds team. Tec Sounds producer Miguel Mejia. EduTrends producers Esteban Venegas and Cristian Igosa. Stay tuned and play Tec Sounds in your favorite podcast app for other great shows and content.